There's a saying that goes, a man is whatever door he walks through. Well, right now there's a man in this city whose accent depends on whichever camera's rolling. A man who wants us to think he's running for mayor, when in reality he's just updating his audition tape. New York City is bleeding out, and this guy's rehearsing lines. That is not public service, it's performance. And from Broadway to City Hall, I think it's safe to say that we have enough performers in this town. And what's the big offer, you may ask? The one-size-fits-all solution to everything from high crime to bad vibes? Socialism, of course, with a side of oat milk. Delivered to us straight from the group chats of Columbia University's most opinionated trust fund revolutionaries. These people don't want to break the system. They want to inherit it. They don't hate power. They just want their turn at it. Me? I'd rather bet on someone who's been in the fire and has the scars to prove it. Someone who is the living embodiment of the middle finger to everything that drags this city down. Someone like the future mayor of New York City, Curtis Sliwa. Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Reid. Welcome to Banned in the Bronx. As I mentioned earlier today, we have a very special guest today, the future mayor of this great city, Curtis Sliwa. Curtis, thank you for coming on.
Appreciate it. Love the name of the show, Banned in the Bronx.
Yes.
Because that's why I started the Guardian Angels back in 1979. And for 13 years, they tried to ban us in the Bronx and eliminate us and incarcerate us and arrest us and remove us. And it didn't work.
It didn't work, huh?
It didn't work.
Well, you see, I was going to actually ask you about that because I've heard you mention before that the Guardian Angels did start here in the Bronx,
Yeah.
and that was some time ago. So my question is, what do you think people are missing or not understanding about the Bronx still, from back then to now? Because it seems like it seems like we're the misunderstood borough in many ways. So what do you think that is that they're still not getting about this borough?
It's the ignored borough.
Yes.
Other than Yankee Stadium, they ignore it. And I remember a time back in 1977 where I was just sort of dabbling in politics.
Okay.
And I was watching Reggie Jackson hit 3 home runs, Yankees win against the Dodgers. And Howard Cosell, at that time, was raised on the Grand Concourse. They used to call that the West Bank.
Okay.
Was reporting that the tenement that was on fire in the distance, you could see it over the right field wall, was an area where he was raised, where he had gone to school, and that George Steinbrenner, senior at the time, owner of the Yankees, was actually threatening to move the Yankees out of the South Bronx, that iconic location, 161st River Avenue, to the Meadowlands. And I remember wrapping a run, a Big Macs, run right off the grill and then putting it in the bin because the place was packed on Webster Avenue in Fordham, the Mickey D's. And I said to myself, the only thing that they export to the Meadowlands are dead bodies and garbage. Why would you consider leaving the Bronx? And because the Bronx was burning at that time. So even though you had the New York Yankees winning championship after championship, that was about the only thing that people were thinking of when they would come to the Bronx.
Sure.
And there's so much more to the Bronx, but people were too afraid to come in the Bronx, and those who had been born and raised in the Bronx didn't want to go back to the Bronx.
Oh, yeah.
But I actually made my sort of trip, my migration from Brooklyn, where I was born and raised, to the Bronx, because I had this idea about the Guardian Angels. Boy, get young people to go out there, start protecting other people without weapons voluntarily. And people in Brooklyn that I grew up with thought I had all the furniture upstairs and rearranged in the wrong rooms. But I recognized the Bronx was so desperately negative. 1 million people had fled from New York City in the 70s alone, and many of them were from the Bronx. So they either went to Westchester or they went across the Tappan Zee Bridge into Rockland, further upstate New York. They were out of here into New Jersey. 1 million people, and most of them from the Bronx, because whole neighborhoods were burning down. There were gangs everywhere. There was a feeling of hopelessness and despair. In fact, a lot of people watching right now were probably not born at that time. I'm a baby boomer. So you got to watch the iconic, classic subculture movie, The Warriors.
Oh, yeah.
And The Warriors, although embellished a bit, gives you a pretty good idea of how the gangs controlled not just the subways, but the streets, the neighborhoods, the tenements, the projects. And so it was at that point where this iconic location, the most famous sports facility in the world, was going to pack up and leave. And I don't really think that much has changed since. I mean, the Yankees are still there. They attract a lot of people. But I think people, for them, the Bronx is an afterthought. Hey, we drive through the Bronx in order to get to Westchester.
Yeah.
Hey, we take the Triborough Bridge in order to get to Queens. But I don't really think that they want to spend much time. They'll go to the zoo. They'll go to the Bronx Botanical Gardens. Maybe they'll go visit their kids at Fordham University. But you don't really get a sense that they want to hang around the Bronx. And I was really attracted to the Bronx when I came up here, the grit. You know, I was living in Brownsville, Brooklyn at that time, East New York, Canarsie, so I was used to the grit.
Sure.
But there was nothing grittier than the Bronx, and especially the South Bronx.
Yeah.
So that's back in the 70s. Although things have improved, it's still the forgotten borough. There's no doubt about it. You almost never hear them talk about anything positive in the Bronx. Now, if a woman was standing on the top of a project and ready to throw her baby down, all the newscasters would be, all the Live at 5, because they love to carry bad news stories from the Bronx. But good news stories, of which I learned there were many, received little, if any, attention. And the elected officials do nothing to promote the image of the Bronx. It's almost like they're out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
And so in coming up to the Bronx, I felt that with the Guardian Angels' birth in the Bronx, and now we're a worldwide organization, 13 countries, 130 cities.
Wow.
And it all started in the Bronx with predominantly Hispanic and black young men and young women, with whites and Asians, but predominantly Hispanic and black. There's a lot of things to be proud of, because this came out of the most unlikely location when everyone was taught as a young person either sit on the sidelines, mind your business, because we don't want you actively doing anything, because you'll probably be a gangbanger, a drug dealer, an enemy of society. And I never believed it. Remember, Bonfire of the Vanities, famous book, was about somebody driving through the Cross Bronx Expressway and getting lost in the hood.
Wow.
And these were the images that were perpetuated constantly. And I knew that not to be true by spending a lot of time up in the Bronx. And I was able to cultivate a lot of young men and young women and give them a right path to travel as opposed to a wrong path, which or a lot of negative influences out there. But I never got a sense in New York City.
Well, something you said I want to touch on, because it kind of reminded me of this thought that I often have, that, and it's not an original thought, but the Bronx seems to be sort of an experiment. It's where people test things that other communities, other boroughs wouldn't stand for. So what would a Mayor Curtis Sliwa do to ensure Bronxites that we're no longer a dumping ground that to be experimented on by the elite?
Got to spend time here. Got to prioritize it. This mayor, con sofrito, yeah, party to the break of dawn. All you got to do is open up a club in the Bronx, and it's guaranteed that the swagger man with no plan, Eric Adams, will be there.
Oh, yeah.
But other than that, he's never here.
Yeah.
And wherever the mayor goes, the attention goes.
Sure.
And you can guide them. You can guide them to the negative. Oh, shootings, gangbangers, blah, blah, blah. Of course, the mayor, police commissioner to be there, lie to the people. Yeah, crime is down. It's a perception. Wait a second. 3 kids just got shot. It's an anomaly. It's an exception to the rule. So they'll be there because if it leads, it bleeds.
Yeah.
But do they really come up and try to talk about all the good things going on in the Bronx? The answer is no.
Yeah.
And yet the local elected officials tolerate that because City Hall will throw them some crumbs, some patronage. So they don't want to be first online. They're willing to be last online as long as they get some crumbs. And that comes from a lack of self-respect. I never had that with the Guardian Angels. We became a worldwide organization, like the Yankees. They don't have a lack of self-respect. They know they're the #1 franchise in the world for sports. But when it comes to other things, you notice they don't have that same kind of attention. And I hold the politicians responsible for that. and they're almost all Democrat. So it's a one-party system, more so than in any other borough
Yes.
in New York City.
Well, aside from being an experiment, it's also a place where it seems like it's a prop. Like, you know, people will use it for things like the zoo, and Democrats will say things like we're helping the impoverished people, but that's all it is. There's no substance there. It's just something they hold up when they want to win an election or whatever the case may be. That's what it seems to me.
Well, if you go back to the really bad days, Fox and Simpson Street, Charlotte Street, you know, it's interesting. When President Donald Trump, while running for election, came up to Corona Park,
Yes.
nobody thought it could work.
No.
All day long, people were coming back and forth. Supporters of Donald Trump, mostly black and Hispanics from the general area. You had 30,000 people.
Yep. I was one of
AOC,
them.
all out crazy, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, leader of the Socialists of America, better known in Westchester, where she grew up as Sandy Ocasio. She wasn't Jenny from the block. She wasn't like Jennifer Lopez, who grew up in Castle Hill and went to Preston High School. No.
Yes.
She was out of here, but pretends she has Bronx roots. Said she lives in Parkchester, and nobody can find her. I remember I went up there one day with a milk carton. I had a picture on it. Said, anybody see her? Oh, I saw her on TV. No. She said she lives in this neighborhood. Nobody. So a lot of posers,
Yes.
but not necessarily people who come back and deliver. For instance, Preston High School is on the cusp of being closed. A really fine all-girls Catholic school. The nuns, you know, they're retiring. There aren't that many nuns any longer.
My sister goes to Preston, so.
Right, so
yeah.
you know what a really special school it was.
I do.
Now, they were in dire straits fiscally. Jenny Lopez could have wrote one check, obviously would have gotten tax credits, you know, because it's a nonprofit educational institution. And I asked people, did anybody reach out to Jennifer Lopez? Or maybe some of her classmates.
Sure.
Everybody knew that it was in distress. Now, Bally's came to the rescue.
They did, yes.
Who purchased the Trump golf course, and they're hoping to get a casino. I hope they don't. Casinos are nothing but trouble.
I agree.
And they don't bring economic revival, especially to the neighborhoods, particularly where they're in. Just look at Atlantic City. But that's a different subject. But that just shows you, even the people who came from the Bronx
Yeah.
don't come back, many of them, to their roots and understand and explain to young people who maybe grew up in the same neighborhood how they were able to succeed against all odds. I know recently I was down 149th and 3rd Avenue, the hub.
Okay.
And I've seen, you know, Eric Adams, Task Force there, and Richie Torres, you know. Press conference, Richie Torres, and then,
Oh, yeah.
boom, gone to Riverdale. And I stood there, and we had a bunch of young men. I know he's coming up as a guest, Tyreek, who was running for city council.
Yes, Tyreek
A few
Goodman.
of his friends. Arnold Salinas, who has been with me for 48 years, and one of my other guardian angels. And we cleaned up the whole square.
Wow.
People looked at that. They said, yeah, you always did that with the Rock Brigade, which preceded the Guardian Angels. We cleaned up the Bronx.
Okay.
Because if the place is dirty, if there's squalor, if there's guys shooting up and they're passing out, first of all, it sets a picture of such despair that if you're growing up in that environment, there's a very good chance you're going to get caught up and get swallowed up into the belly of the beast. But you start to make the place look normal, like other neighborhoods are, and it raises everybody's self-esteem. The little things are important.
Yeah.
This city doesn't do that.
No.
And they allow people to be shooting up there openly, drug deals, people passing out, all kinds of medical problems, emotionally disturbed persons. They all know that that's a hangout for trouble, and they don't do anything to try to corral it, contain it, and get help for those people. They do nothing except have press conferences. Look at the last press conference that Eric Adams, swagger man with no plan, had. He was going to put together the task force, sanitation, mental health. You know, people were going to come in from various local hospitals, Bronx, Lebanon. They did nothing. Oh, God, Spubkiss. And then fashion, styling, and profiling. Richie Torres. He had a press conference. They did nothing. We didn't have a press conference. We just did it.
Yes.
And I went back there the next day because they had the annual festival on 152nd in Jackson, the Puerto Rican, preceding the Puerto Rican Day Parade. and I walk back to the location. Yeah, a little garbage here and there. But the people hanging out said, yeah, Sliwa, we're keeping it clean, man. We appreciate you coming down and cleaning it up. You can't just talk about things. You got to show people.
Yes.
It's sort of do as I say and as I do.
Exactly.
And people appreciate that.
Now, you've seen this borough at its best. You've seen it at its worst. I mean, it's where the Guardian Angels formed. What keeps you coming back? Because obviously you care. I see you here all the time. I see you here more than people who are elected officials here. What keeps you coming back, Curtis?
Well, first off, you said I've seen it at its best. I've never seen it at its best. I'm sorry. I mean, I've seen improvements in different neighborhoods.
Yeah. No, I understand.
I mean, you go down to Fox Street, Simpson Street, Charlotte Street. Oh, that's the story. You see, I was getting right into Katona Park.
Yeah.
Donald Trump being there against all odds. AOC trying to bring a counter demonstration right in her backyard, and she can only get 400 people, union people, and it paled in comparison, which showed it's mythical, her strength, in the Bronx. But on Charlotte Street, when Ronald Reagan was running for the presidency against Jimmy Carter, the incumbent president, Jimmy Carter had come previously, and he was on Charlotte Street with all the debris, and he promised he was going to rebuild the Bronx, and everybody knew he wasn't going to rebuild the Bronx. First off, he was surrounded by all the Democratic politicians from the Bronx who had their beak in the trough. Mm-hmm. You knew that any money that came out of Washington was going to go right into their pockets and not to the people. So Ronald Reagan comes there. He's running against the president, Jimmy Carter, and Nancy Reagan is in the car. Mm-hmm. And Ronnie gets out, he's got his entourage, his security, and there's a group there waiting for him. Because the local Dems, just recruited a lot of thugs.
Sure.
And there's Nancy. She looks out, and you see she says to the camera, Ronnie, I'm going to stay in the car. It was hostile.
Wow.
They were in Ronald Reagan's face, but he was giving as well as taking it.
Yeah.
And one of the women there sounded just like Cardi B. Must have been her mother. She was giving that yin-yang to Reagan, but Reagan wasn't taking it, but he wasn't able to do anything.
No.
Yet, how many years later is Donald Trump in Katona Park? And then, soon after, he goes up to Castle Hill to the Dominican barbershop.
Yes.
And a lot of credit never went to the man who made that possible, the Reverend Ruben Diaz Sr., who sort of paved the way. I'm very disappointed. He did a lot for Donald Trump in the administration.
Yes.
He put his skin color on the line. He put his credit. He had to be here. I was on the pickup truck right before the election with Reverend Diaz Sr., where the cowboy had me with the red beret, Trump. Yeah. People going like this, in the streets. Others were going, yeah. Others, He had to live there. I don't live there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yet, he organized that trip to Katona Park. He had walked the area in advance, Black and Hispanics for Trump. He arranged the arrival at that Dominican barbershop in Castle Hill.
Wow.
He never got an appointment from the White House. Now, I don't know if he wanted one. I don't know but man, that's a man that did a lot for the presidency. And you remember that speech. Because the Reverend Ruben Diaz Sr., speaks with a heavy accent. He said, this man, with my accent from Puerto Rico, with kinky hair. Yes. I love that speech. And I support you for president. And the crowd went crazy. Those are the kind of people that should be at the side of the president. See, they helped him, but I don't see them. I'm a Republican. I'm the Republican nominee for the mayoralty of the city of New York. But a lot of people helped him get there. I don't necessarily see them yet. I mean, it's brand new, his second time as president.
Yes.
Where they are an integral part of his team. I'm sure that's eventually going to happen. Mm-hmm. But I would have thought there would have been a place for the Reverend Ruben Diaz Sr.
Well, that would make sense. But I haven't been involved in politics very long. But what I can say is...
Thank God. Because when you're involved in politics, you feel so soiled, you have to take a hot shower.
I could only
imagine. It's
a
dirty, dirty business. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't get involved.
No.
The only way you're going to clean it up, you got to give it a colonic.
Yes.
But it's a dirty business.
It is. It is. And something that I found very common is that finding instances where people get credit for work they do, few and far between. It doesn't really happen. But earlier you mentioned that you never seen the good days of the Bronx.
Yeah, never.
But
I mean, I've seen improvements in neighborhoods.
Yeah, of course.
But the old timers would tell me when I was the night manager at Mickey D's.
Yeah.
Remember, that's back, you're talking 1976. I actually first trained at Allerton Avenue, White Plains Road, which back then was like Leave It to Beaver, Father Knows Best, Little House on the Prairie. That was the training McDonald's.
Wow.
Didn't have much volume.
Sure.
But you had Pelham Parkway, so you had a lot of the older Jews, older Italians, Hispanics, blacks, you know, a mixed neighborhood. I lived on Burke Avenue with Italians who were still growing their fig trees, you know, and the train passed right over the 2 and the 3. But it was relatively quiet then.
Yes.
Now they've had shootings there since, right in that same Mickey D's. So they trained me because they said, Curtis, we have an assignment for you. I said, well, where do you want to send me? We just had a security officer shot and killed on East Fordham Road in Webster, and we can't get anybody to run the store at night. And I said, that's me. And so they transferred me over, and it was total chaos. It was total mayhem.
Sure.
But I was eventually able to get control of the running of that store with the help of Don Chin, who had actually a big Chinese guy, grew up in the project, Soundview, member of the Savage Skulls. He took no prisoners. Boy, when he ran his shift, you did not start any trouble or you'd be sucking concrete. And he told me, Curtis, you could do it the Ronald McDonald way from Oak Brook, Illinois. They had Ronald McDonald University,
Okay.
which apparently I didn't qualify for. Didn't qualify for that. Right? Kicked me out of high school. I guess I couldn't even make the grade with Ronald McDonald University. And he said, you could either do it their way, and we'll give you a great eulogy and funeral, and, you know, we'll find, you know, people to carry you out in your casket. Or if you want to survive, you'll do it the Don Chin way.
Okay.
And let me tell you something. We had all kinds of weapons over the heaters in the grill area.
Wow.
And I hired a crew that was going to cover my back when I went over the counter because there was constant problems in the lobby and outside.
Yeah.
And so a lot of those crew members, the last place they were located was Rikers Island. They didn't have an option. They came in, they wanted a job. I gave them a chance. They deserved a chance, but I also told them, you may not have the best work ethic, but when I go over that counter and get control of that lobby, you better have my back, because if you don't have my back, I don't need you.
Exactly.
Because you don't even know how to work the fryer station. You remember, like Vice President Harris, I worked the fryer station in the Mickey D's. No, you don't just work a fryer station. You do a lot of, you knew right away she was a fake, phony, fraudulent fugazi. And then you saw Donald Trump go, and not only that, work the fryer station in Pennsylvania.
Yes, exactly.
So my experience in the Bronx was in a baptism of fire at a time when the gangs ruled. You didn't see many cops. Some were on the take. And I remember my first experience with the cops. They're walking in from the 5-2 precinct, which was up near Meshulah Parkway. The guy comes in, I want 20 Big Macs. I want 4 quarter-pounders with cheese, 12 quarter-pounders, fries. He orders this thing, and they're ringing it up on the cash register. He goes, we don't pay. I looked at him and said, oh, yes, you do. And he waves his finger at me and says, when you're going to call 911 for the police, right at the end of the night, because that's when most of the problems occur, we ain't going to come. And I said, you ain't getting free food. I'm not even going to give you a cup of coffee.
Well, in the
Boy,
same,
did I pay for that.
well, in the same way you whipped that McDonald's into shape all those years ago, I have the utmost confidence that you're going to do the same for this city. And that leads me to something else. Earlier, in my monologue, I mentioned something about fake accents.
Yeah.
Right? And there's a certain candidate who seemingly has a different persona depending on which camera. So I want to get your reaction to that. So if we could roll that clip and get Curtis's reaction.
Oftentimes, we've even found as legislators, when we go into these courts, the term violent crime is even used when people are stealing packages.
But they go to their local bodega.
Bring the flavor to the fish.
Worldwide tour is a worldwide tour is a worldwide tour.
Nepotism and hard work goes a long way.
This is how I speak.
Happen to be a rapper. I am a rapper proper.
That's a real Che Guevara there. All he needs is a brain like mine. He looks like Che Guevara.
Now, let me ask you this, because when a guy like that is running for mayor of the most important city, arguably in the world, and he has fake accents like that, how fake must his platform be?
Not necessarily an indication of the platform, because, let's face it, the best politicians now are actors.
Yes.
Ronald Reagan.
He
wasn't even a good actor in theater, but he was a great president, right?
Yes.
Donald Trump, The Apprentice. Barack Obama. He was magnificent on the stage. Bill Clinton. And then you had some other fuddy-duddy, boring politicians. They were probably better at policy and initiatives and might have even been better presidents. But you got to have some pizzazz on that stage, and that's why this Zohan has caught on.
Yes.
He's multifaceted, multidimensional. You know, born in Uganda of Indian parents. His mother, a world-renowned filmmaker. He's made films. He's acted.
Yes.
So he uses all those skills, and to a great degree, politics has become acting. I mean, just look at Eric Adams. I'm the swagger man. What the hell was that? Right? $5,000 customized suit. Where'd you get the money for that? So you understand.
Yeah.
Everybody has their own, what we would call in Yiddish, shtick.
Okay.
That's his shtick. But he tells you what his policies are. And if you notice, he does not surrender. He doesn't retreat. Typical politician, well, let me modify that. No.
Yeah.
He's a true ideologue. Dangerous. The true ideologues are dangerous. He's more dangerous than Bernie Sanders, who will modify his position. AOC has modified her position. It's all right, Mandani.
He won't.
You
budge.
ask him questions, he doubles it down.
Yeah.
And yet, he has a following. And the people who are complaining about him are mostly baby boomers. I hate to tell you, baby boomers, I'm one. We're not the majority anymore. It is the Gen Zs and millennials who are the majority. And if we keep demeaning them and bad-mouthing them, they're stupid, they're lazy, you know, they follow this communist, socialist, anti-Semite, you got to give them a reason to want to join you.
Yes.
Now, you, Chris, you've been involved with a lot of young men, young women in the Bronx.
I have.
Organizing as conservatives and Republicans.
Yes.
Which, if they walked into one of your meetings, people, they must be Democrats, right? They must be DSA, Working Family Party, just because of the stereotype and the look. And black and Hispanics, men and women, young, could never be conservatives or Republicans. But that's a growing movement that you have helped create and others. And you need to be applauded for that. You were to say you were Republican or conservative. Take the coat of omerta.
Of course.
Yeah, you would consider like you had a scarlet letter, like there was something wrong with you. Now you see people will wear MAGA hats, MAGA paraphernalia.
Oh, yeah.
Started first with the men.
Yes.
A lot of bravado, a lot of machismo.
Exactly.
But I've noticed increasingly women. And it all depends on Trump at that moment. You know, if he's on the rise, yes. If all of a sudden he's snatching up migrants from your family, it's sort of like, you better take that MAGA stuff off. It ain't going down too well in this neighborhood.
Yes. Now, back to Mandami.
Yes.
Do you think this guy, now he makes a lot of promises, many of which impossible to keep.
Correct.
You believe this guy believes the things he's saying, or he's just saying the right buzzwords for the right audience?
No, he's a true ideologue. When I was a young person in high school, you know, I sampled the different politics. I went to communist meetings. I went to socialist meetings. I even went to an anarchist conference at Hunter College. So I walk in, it's in the cafeteria, they're all flying black flags.
Wow.
And in typical Curtis Sliwa Weisenheimer form, I said, how can you have a convention because anarchists don't believe in structure or government or leadership? And they introduced me to the door. But I sampled everything.
Yes.
How else are you going to know?
Exactly.
It's the same way I would suggest to all young people, it's like you're at a smorgasbord, you're at a buffet. Test out the liberals, progressives, the conservatives, Republicans, Democrats, and choose something that attracts you.
Yeah.
But don't be like, I'm only going to do this. Why not explore, find out what other people are doing, and then make your choice? That's what a democracy is.
Exactly.
And you may be in favor of liberal progressive ideas on one end, but then you're a staunch Republican or a conservative on the other end. There are a lot of people like that. They're not just one-dimensional.
Yes. Now, you called out these DSA types for being, you know, a little phony maybe, a little, you know, high promises, low delivery. The facts are guys like Zohan actually, you know, they're out there organizing. They have real infrastructure. They have money. They have the donor class. How do you beat that?
Well, first off, I've watched them in the streets. I had a candidate running against one of their queens.
Okay.
Caban in Astoria.
Okay.
Now, Caban, who is the city councilwoman there, is a mini-me of AOC.
Great.
Hardcore leftist. She had run against Melinda Katz for Queens DA and almost beat her. Now, I happen to know Melinda Katz. She is the mother of my two youngest sons. And I recognize how the traditional Democratic machine went to sleep on the DSA and the Working Families Party because Caban was a strong ideologue. And she almost won that. Can you imagine? She would have been the Queen's DA. Man, everybody would have been evacuated. But she came ever so close. It came down to the paper ballots.
Sure.
She basically won on the machine vote, lost on the paper ballots. That should have been a wake-up call to everybody. Like, how could she have beaten the traditional Democratic machine with a really good candidate for DA, which Melinda Katz is? So you say to yourself, they gave us an example. So you watch how they organize. So we had Kelly Klingman, who was a mother who lived in the community. She wanted to run because the community in Astoria was showing signs of just sort of struggling. You know, it's always been a classic place to go, but it's been struggling. And she ran against Caban.
Wow.
And she was doing relatively well, but I saw how the DSA and Working Families Party gets their membership. They go out during the day, they knock on doors, they're doing great retail politics, they got a lot of energy, and then 9 o'clock at night, witching hour. Okay, everybody over to O'Neill's tonight, drinks on the house. You want a little weed, sex, hooking up, networking, whatever you want to call it, to the break of dawn. Now, you know how young people are. High levels of testosterone and estrogen crashing through their cranium.
Yes.
A lot of them couldn't hook up with plywood. But now you're in this gathering of all these different kind of people, all different sexualities, gender identifications. You're with your crowd.
Yeah.
You can't wait to come out tomorrow and work hard.
Exactly.
So you can party to the break of dawn. So they understand young people need more than just work. Now, problem is with a lot of the older Republicans, Democrats, conservatives, you know, they'll go out there, they work hard for one day, and then it's the blue plate special at 4 o'clock, and then they're taking a Bengay bath and Epsom salt for their feet. They're ready to come out the next day, and then they got to call up, can't come up today, my feet are all swollen, and you won't see them for a week. Now, they're trying, but they just don't have that same verve, that same energy. So I believe you fight fire with fire. That's why most of my followers, you know, to get me elected, they're in their 20s.
Exactly.
My campaign manager, James Perone. You saw the young man who sat here, 25 years old.
Yes.
Liberty Avenue. He ran against Adrian Adams as the Republican candidate. Lost, but fought a good campaign. He's got a great future. And there's so many others. They're out there.
Shout out to Roussat in the audience there, everybody. He's a great guy.
That's right. But the point is, they're there. We got to go get them, recruit them, and maintain them, so that we don't disappoint them, that we're just using them like a lot of older people. Hey, kid, why don't you go get me a cup of coffee at Dunkin' Donuts, and you could get yourself a donut.
Yes.
You know, it's like, that's not why I'm here.
Exactly.
You got to give them responsibilities. You got to give them decision-making responsibility. I've done that in the Guardian Angels, not just here, but all over the world. We're in 13 countries, 130 cities. We're dependent mostly on young people. Gen Zs, millennials. But unfortunately, my generation, baby boomers, have not looked at the analytics. We are no longer the majority. Some of us, unfortunately, are passing away. Some of us are infirm, and some have fled to Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, Texas, Tennessee, and parts unknown. So you can't sustain a movement with just baby boomers. You know who found that out? Andrew Evil Eyes Cuomo. Oh, boy. He was going to wait for the 55-plus people to vote.
Yeah.
And then an act of God. It was hotter than hell.
Yes.
102 degrees. We never had that on an election day. And they were promoting that days in advance. So you could see people saying, let's see, I have high blood pressure, you know, I have heart palpitations. If I walk to the polling location, I'll probably drop dead. I love you, Andrew, but I can't vote for you. You cannot solely just depend on my generation. We're probably the most dedicated voters when you look at it.
Yes.
70% generally of 55 plus vote, 30% of 45 and younger. Zorhan has changed that dynamic, and we better learn from that. I certainly have already been doing that, but some of my colleagues don't. The new generation, it's your generation. It's time for your leadership. It's also time for Latinos to understand they are no longer the minority. They are the majority. Do you know we don't have one Latino in statewide office?
I did not know that.
Not one Latino in citywide office. Yet, you're the majority. This is the legacy of New York. You come in, you're immigrants.
Exactly.
Happened with the Irish.
Yes.
And it happened with Jews. And it happened with Italians. It's now time for blacks and West Indians and Caribbeans. What happened to the Latinos? Not one citywide position, not one statewide position. Oh, I don't understand. They're not even permitted to run.
Wow.
What'd you have? Jessica Ramos, in the primary? And then all of a sudden, to show you the disrespect for Latinos and Latinas, Cuomo accepts her endorsement and doesn't cross-endorse her. I mean, think of that, right?
Wow.
Brad Lander and Zorhan cross-endorsed one another, became very solid for ranked choice voting. So Jessica Ramos says, I'm going to endorse Andrew Cuomo, and he doesn't even cross-endorse her. Hey, lady, why don't you go check on the room, see if you can, change. I mean, come on. Latinos, and you're too busy fighting one another because Puerto Ricans used to be the majority. It's now Dominicans.
Yes.
The Mexicans are coming up, other Latinos, and they're all busy fighting. No. If you unite, then it's your time to lead. But if you don't start uniting and leading, the next group that's organizing are the Asians and Southeast Asians. And if they don't fight with one another, guess what? You'll be the majority, but you'll have bupkis politically. And I don't even hear the Democrat, Latinos, of which there are many, start moaning and groaning like, when is our time going to come? When are we going to be able to be the mayor or the controller or the public advocate or the state controller or the attorney general or the governor?
Yes.
How come the white man is asking that question?
Well, maybe we could get to the bottom of that after this quick commercial break.
Today we're going to look at the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act that amends New York City Labor Law 201D. It balances legal rights of workers and those of employers, while recognizing federal law. It protects those that are over 21 and legally employed. However, it doesn't protect illegal activities having to do with cannabis. Protection is regardless of immigration or citizenship status. Here's the rundown. Between work hours, it grants employers certain abilities. But employers can't restrict employees' use of cannabis during non-work hours. However, the amended New York Labor Law, Section 201D4A, lets employers take employment action or prohibit employee conduct where employers can't drug test employees except in situations where it's mandatory by the state or federal government for certain jobs.
Welcome back, everybody. We're here with Curtis Sliwa. We're going to move on to our next segment right now. It's kind of a new thing that I'm trying to experiment with. It's called Rate That Ruling. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you, I'm going to mention to you a couple of laws, a couple of proposals, a couple of things like that, and you're going to rate them 1 to 10, see what we get.
Now, 1 being the best, 10 being the worst?
1 being the worst, 10 being the best. Okay. The first one. So Florida just recently passed a law allowing drivers to hit protesters swarming their cars or blocking the roads. What do you think of that? How do you rate that one?
I'd say a 5.
A 5? Yeah.
Yeah, you know, sometimes people want to just plow into demonstrations. I've been in a lot of demonstrations.
Sure.
I would not want to have somebody with a heavy foot.
No.
Because they probably wanted to run me over. So I'd say, we say in Italian, mezze, poco, half and
Mezze,
half. I'll
mezze.
give it a 5.
Okay, a 5 it is. The big, beautiful bill.
Why does he call it the beautiful bill? There
couldn't
is
tell you.
no bill that's beautiful. $5 trillion in debt. Mm-hmm. You know, on this one, I'm
Yes.
actually with Elon Musk.
Really?
Oh, we're heading in a horrible direction. The Democrats and the Republicans don't know how to stop spending money they don't have. Mm-hmm. And it's not like one party fiscally alert. No, they just print money, spend it, Federal Reserve. What are we doing? You know, our generation is not going to feel the effects. I have 3 sons.
Okay,
They're going to feel the effects big time because nothing's for free.
exactly.
So now most of our money in the future is going to be spent to pay off the debt. If you don't pay off the debt, you're not going to continue to get money to operate the government through the sale of bonds to foreign countries, investors, because they feel that their investment in America is safe and secure. Unlike in their country, where any moment there can be an insurrection and it's gone. That's why they love to have gold bars in the Federal Reserve.
Yeah.
But both parties are in a race to bankrupt America.
Yes.
So I know there are a lot of Republicans out there. They believe anything that Donald Trump does. It's like a deity speak. No, not when it comes to this. I'm sorry. So I would say I would give it a 1.
A 1.
The big, beautiful bill. Way too much money being spent. Way too much money.
Well, I appreciate the honesty. Now, also, Hochul, she recently proposed to develop a nuclear plant in upstate New York. 1 through 10.
I give that a 10, but only because Andy Cuomo, Andrew
Okay.
Evil Eyes Cuomo, decided to close Indian Point,
Yes.
which is right by what he calls the Mario Cuomo Bridge. It's really the Tappan Zee Bridge. It'll never change for me.
Yes.
But it provided 1/3 of our nuclear energy, and they had no problems.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the irony is the sanctimonious hypocrite that Cuomo is, and the people like Pelosi and others, you know, in his stock portfolio, Andrew Cuomo owns $2.5 million worth of stock options in nuclear energy.
Really?
Yeah, because he
Wow.
realizes there's a need for it.
Yes.
A lot of times they said, well, it's dangerous. It's not clean energy. It is clean energy, but you have to be careful.
Yes.
I mean, we've seen in Japan, obviously, Chernobyl is the classic example, Pennsylvania, where there could be a meltdown. Well, but with proper procedures, you're not going to have that problem. This is not like The Simpsons, you know, with running a nuclear power plant.
Yeah.
I've been in third world countries. They have
Yeah.
nuclear power plants right next to
without a
huts
problem.
and shacks, right?
Yeah.
You go to France, every 5 square miles, there's another nuclear power plant. We have to go nuclear. We have to figure out how to process the waste from the nuclear plants better
Yeah.
so it doesn't become a long-term problem. But she finally got on the good foot, and it's going to allow. Now, they're not building the same kind of nuclear power plants they used to. They call them mini nuclear power plants.
Okay.
So expect there to be many, but they're small size.
Okay.
Not these large, gargantuan-sized nuclear power plants that sometimes take 4 years to build.
Wow.
It's a very complicated process.
My wife is from Austria. Do they have a nuclear power plants there? No, they used to, if I'm not mistaken, correct? Oh, they closed it? Okay.
Yeah, Australia.
Austria.
Oh, Austria,
Yes.
yeah. Well, Austria, Czechoslovakia, Poland, those
Yes.
whole areas. No, Europe must have nuclear power because, as you can see, the Russians control them.
Exactly.
Natural gas, petroleum.
Yeah.
The Russian Putin can just squeeze them, especially in the wintertime, and he does.
That's exactly right. All right, next one. So RFK banning artificial dyes like Red 40, for example. 1 to 10.
Oh, we give it a 10.
Yes.
But I was when I was eating my Lucky Charms as a kid, right? I mean, come on, man. You know, as a kid,
Yeah.
let's face it, it wasn't good for you.
No.
But it had to be. And it took somebody like RFK Jr. He's a bit of a wingding in some other areas, but he's the man who's actually made this a priority.
Exactly.
Yes.
Which the Bronx, I don't know if you know, is the unhealthiest of the 5 boroughs.
Oh, absolutely.
So things like that will affect us in a very positive way, more so than other communities.
The worst food.
Yeah.
rancid food
yeah.
that is served in some of the grocery stores, bodegas, and supermarkets. Toxic waste.
Yeah.
Debris from construction sites. I mean, there's like a plume hanging over the Bronx.
There is.
And let's face it, the rest of the city doesn't care. It's saying better over there than here.
Exactly.
And City Hall never prioritizes the Bronx, except right before election.
Yeah, well, naturally.
Is votes.
The convenient timing of politics.
Right.
Banning gas stoves here in New York.
I give that a 1.
A 1, yeah. Same.
But then again, you have to have the gas, right? And now apparently Trump has made a deal with Hochul, because remember, he was going to stop the continued construction of the windmills off the South Shore of Long Island.
Yeah.
Bruce Blakeman, the Nassau County executive, was doing a victory dance. And then apparently a backroom deal was made with Hochul, who's now going to allow imports of natural gas to come into New York State from Canada, which is she would not permit and Cuomo would not permit. But you can't ban gas stoves. I mean,
No.
what are you going to do? Electric?
No.
Everything's going to be electric. Now, what happens if the grid goes down?
Exactly.
And not only that, on an electric grill,
No.
not just pizza. Yeah, right? I mean, think of it. Coal-burning ovens, right?
Yes.
That's what you want, pizza or gas-powered. Can you imagine cooking pizza on an electric
No,
grill?
I can't imagine at all.
Would the George Foreman grill be able to perform if it was all electric? Think about that.
I doubt it. I doubt it.
Yeah.
Next one is marijuana legalization. Now, I'm very interested to know your take on marijuana specifically. actually.
It was legal before it was legal.
Yes.
I mean, when I come in the Bronx, it's like a plume. It's like 420.
Hits you right in the face.
Not
right?
only that, they're smoking blunts, everywhere. And by the way, you can go to Orchard Beach, you light up a Marlboro Red, they're going to write you up a ticket.
You light up a
You
joint.
light a blunt, and the guy, the cop, or the parkie asks, yo, man, why don't you do puff, puff, pass?
Yes.
So marijuana's been already legal. It was decriminalized. So there's no way to stop it. You got people growing it in their apartments in like an atrium.
Yes.
You legalized it. Cuomo did, but he didn't have any of the protections involved. And then everybody started selling it once they knew, hey, they were opening up stores everywhere. Then they started cracking down. You can make money for the Treasury, but you have to control it. And you certainly have to make sure the kids are not going in and out. Because how many of these places in the Bronx, they'll be hanging out before they go to school, and they're supposed to be carding these kids. You got to get out of here. You got to be 21.
Yes.
No. They'll sell to anybody. They'll sell them because it's all about making money.
Exactly.
The only green they're interested in is not what you stuff in a blunt. It's what you put in the cash register.
Oh, yeah.
And also, the other problem was, we know a lot of marijuana was being sold illegally. You couldn't put it in the bank.
No.
You got to be able to bank it, because then all the home invasions. Why do you think there's so many home invasions? Because there are guys who are clocking all day outside. They let you bust your rump, selling, and then they know you can't put it in a bank.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, the stick-up kids are there. That actually encourages crime. So it's nothing that I wanted initially, but marijuana is here. Like, we tried prohibition against alcohol.
Yeah.
How did that work out?
Not very well.
Right, but there is a way to
It
control it.
worked out for Al Capone, though.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you can't be letting people light up and smoke it out in public.
I agree.
There's no crackdown at all.
Yeah.
I mean, they're more likely to bust you for drinking a beer than for smoking a blunt.
No, I agree with that. We take our daughter to Pelham Bay Park. We should not have to endure the smell of marijuana. I don't care what people do. I'm a little more libertarian when it comes to that. But in a park where there's kids playing, that should not be
Well,
allowed.
the worst thing is, you walk into somebody's house, that smell clings to you, and
Exactly.
they've been thinking,
They think it's you.
yo, man, you've been hitting that weed, huh?
Yes. But now, speaking of marijuana, I want to move on to the next thing. I want to talk a little about counterculture.
Yeah.
Okay, so in your time, the counterculture were the hippies, right? They were the Vietnam veterans. It was free love, LSD. It seems today that that's flipped, right? And today the establishment is progressive, and the so-called rebels are the guys wearing MAGA hats going to Catholic Mass, daily Catholic Mass. So I want to ask you, what do you think is the new counterculture, and where do you fit into that?
You see, I don't believe in any culture, except I think everybody should be a free agent. They should sample different things. This is what America allows you to do. Most other countries, you can't do that.
Yeah.
So let's say you wanted to see what the MAGA lifestyle was like. You wanted to see what the now liberal progressive lifestyle was like. I'd say don't just reject everything. There may be pieces of it you want in terms of your own goodwill. But unfortunately, we get very tribal.
Yes.
You're either with us or you're with them. There's no smorgasbord here. There's no buffet. You're either a vegan or you're eating red meat.
Yes.
And so, no. That's not the way life
Everything's
is.
like divisive now.
Right. Now, I
Everything's
may be
separate.
MAGA, but I don't want to go to Catholic Mass.
Yes, exactly.
But if all of a sudden the peer pressure is, no, you got to go to Catholic Mass, I'm out of there. Same thing with liberals and progressives. They say, no, you got to believe in this. What do you mean I got to believe in this? Well, that the city should own the supermarkets. I've seen that in Havana. I've been to Havana. It doesn't work. Mm-hmm. But wait a second. You can't say that because there's a certain ideological script we all follow. That's why people need to think for themselves. They shouldn't be sheep. And our politicians believe that they're the sheep herders. I've had intimate conversations with Democrats and Republicans where they say, Curtis, you say you're the people's mayor, because you see I am festooned with that.
Yes.
And when I was doing WABC, talk radio for 35 years, the beginning of the program is Curtis Sliwa is a politician that says, trust no politicians, because I don't. I trust the people. I don't trust politicians, even in my own party. In this particular style, Ronald Reagan said, trust but verify. Mm-hmm. I say verify, then I'll trust you.
Yes.
It's that simple. Prove yourself that you are actually do what you're suggesting that others do. And that's what I've always followed. And I don't want to be typecast into any one person. Like,
Good.
You're a rhino. You're a MAGA. How about I'm a little bit of everything depending on the situation? Likewise for Democrats. And now you have these moderate Democrats who are so afraid of liberals and progressives. They try to say, can you temporarily become a Democrat? Can you change your registration to help us fight the liberals and progressives? Why are you trying to recruit Republicans? Why don't you go out and recruit more moderate Democrats?
Yes.
Why do you need us to become speed bumps for you? And then once they recruit you and you sign up just to help them fight the evil socialists, and the Working Families Party, how many of these people do you think go back to being Republicans? Zero. So if you're a Republican out there, if you want to change your party affiliation, fine. But don't believe that you have to become a rent-a-wreck Democrat to help them fight a battle that they're not willing to fight themselves.
Exactly. I agree with that. Now, you can't talk about the counterculture unless, you talk about where it really takes place, and that's within the youth, right? And it's not the TikTok activists, it's not the DSA interns, with the matching tote bags. I'm talking about right now it seems to me the only organization of young people who, are acting without permission and being loud and knocking on doors is the New York Young Republican Club. And now I want to know from you, when you see an organization like that on the scene, like the New York Young Republican Club, does that give you hope or does it give you a little agita?
No, it gives me hope. In fact, you were out there helping Frank Morano get elected in the South Shore. Vito Fisella was running his son, not ready for prime time. Maybe the kid will have a career in the future. He just, wasn't old enough. You came out by the busload.
Yes.
I was out there for Frank Morano.
You were.
And then how did I get back? I went on the bus with UIRs, and I was regaling everybody with stories. And then remember, I'm the old timer, right? Now I'm singing, and the wheels fell off the bus and went round and round, round and round. Bingo, B-I-N-G-O, and all the young Republicans said, what the hell is this guy talking about? But we had a great time on the bus.
We did.
And we were discussing politics, retail politics.
Yeah.
So the young Republicans definitely understand this isn't just getting on your cell phone and communicating with people and TikToking, and you do all that too, but it's good old-fashioned door-to-door retail.
It's like
because
grassroots,
the progressives, the liberals, especially the DSA and Working Families Party, are very good at that.
Yes.
And then what did the YRs do afterwards when you got off the bus? You partied till the break of dawn. I had to go home and drink my Geritol.
Now, let me ask you now. We have organizations like the Young Republicans, but we also have the more old guard sort of Republicans who, you know, they do the work and they've paved the road for us to build on.
Yeah.
Now, if there was anything these old guard Republicans or politicians in general could learn from organizations like the Young Republicans or young people in general, what do you think that lesson could be?
They have to mentor them. And it's not just older Republicans, it's true of the older Democrats, is that they tend to demean the younger people because it's generational. AOC was correct. You know, I don't agree with AOC often, as you can imagine.
Yes, of course.
But she said this is a generational battle, and it is.
Yeah.
So they have to start doing what I've done. How would I be leading an effort for 47 years that is past my prime, so to speak? I'm 71. If I wasn't able to recruit younger people to continue the tradition of service to the community that the Guardian Angels provide now all over the world.
Yes.
The younger people are different now, but it's not that they're less worthy. Mm-hmm. They just operate, function, think differently. They have technological advantages that we didn't have. But they work just as hard. They're just as dedicated. They'll get just as involved in a situation, but you got to give them a reason to.
Exactly.
It's a little easier to do these kinds of things online than to bust your shoes in the streets. But the Young Republicans do that. The DSA does that. And that's why you got to fight fire with fire.
I agree
and I'm the street warrior out there.
Yes, you
and
are.
And again, nobody running for office rides the subways. Because once those doors close, that's a focus group you can't escape.
Oh, no. You're trapped.
So you get the good, you get the bad, and you get the really ugly. So today, I was coming up with Rusat on the number 4 train at Bedford Park.
Okay.
And this woman, she has a baby carriage with a baby and her fellow, whatever, her boyfriend, husband.
Sure.
And she's a little emotionally disturbed. And she sees this South Asian guy. He's taking a picture of the back of my jacket that says, you know, Mayor of the People, the People's Mayor. She thinks from halfway across the subway car that he's taking her picture. She comes over, she's going to rumble with the guy. Lady, he took my picture. He's like shaking there.
Okay.
That's part of what we had. Another time we were on the number 2 train. So you have one guy, he's from, I forget which West Indian country. You're a racist. I listen to you on WABC all the time. Another woman gets on the train at 125th Street. Curtis, you're the best. You saved my life. These are 2 black people.
Curtis, I hate to interrupt you.
What? Can we keep going?
The man upstairs is telling me we're pressed for time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the floor for the last few seconds of this. And you could deliver whatever message to the people of the Bronx, the people of the city that you want.
Isn't it amazing that we're here in the city of New York where we lock up toothpaste but not criminals?
No.
Right? We lock up toothpaste but not criminals.
Yes, exactly.
And for those of you out there who believe that you can pave the way, just like Chris has, just like a lot of young Republicans and young conservatives are out there, and a lot of people of color too.
Yes.
What you got to do is go into neighborhoods like I do where the only Republican they've ever seen is Abraham Lincoln on a $5 bill. Don't just come around on election day because they're going to know you're fronting, that you're a fugazi, that you're fake. They don't even know you. They say, oh, you come into our neighborhood because you want our votes. Where are you the rest of the time? You can't be a fair weather friend because the Democrats are always there because they live there. There's more of them than us.
Exactly.
So you can't just visit for a cup of coffee, you know, a little Bustelo. No. A little El Pico, no. You got to come on a regular basis so now they have a chance to engage you in dialogue, and for themselves, they can make their own judgment.
Very good. Curtis Sliwa, the future mayor of New York City, thank you for coming on.
Oh, my pleasure, Chris. And I love it. Banned in the Bronx.
Banned in the Bronx. That's it. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. I'll catch you at the next one.